Everyone thought his life was perfect. He was one of the richest men in the city, renowned for his intelligence, confidence, and powerful business empire. His name commanded respect in every boardroom, and his face was a regular feature in magazines. He lived in a sprawling mansion on a hill, with luxury cars filling his garage and servants attending to his every need. People looked at him and wished for a fraction of his life. 5 years ago, he married a beautiful and elegant woman. She was charming, polite, and always wore a perfect smile in public. At high society parties, they were the picture of an ideal couple. She would hold his arm proudly, and he would introduce her as the greatest blessing in his life. Cameras flashed around them, and everyone admired their seemingly perfect relationship. From the outside, it looked like a true love story. But everything started to change 6 months ago. It began with small things. One evening, while reviewing important documents in his office, he noticed the words becoming slightly blurry. He rubbed his eyes, blaming it on stress and long working hours. A lack of sleep seemed like a simple explanation, so he ignored it. Days later, the blurriness returned, and this time, it lasted longer. Bright lights started to hurt his eyes. Sometimes, he'd see dark shadows moving at the edges of his vision. Fear slowly crept into his heart, but he was a man of immense pride and refused to show any weakness. His wife, however, insisted he see the best doctors in the country. She personally arranged every appointment, drove him to the hospitals, held his hand during the checkups, and spoke to the doctors privately. After countless tests, the doctors delivered the heartbreaking news. He had a rare condition that was progressively damaging his eyesight. They warned him it was serious and likely permanent. The diagnosis shattered him. Within weeks, his vision deteriorated rapidly. He struggled to walk without support. Reading became impossible. And then, one day, darkness consumed his world completely. The powerful millionaire who once commanded industries and signed multi-million-dollar deals could no longer see his own reflection in the mirror. His wife immediately stepped into the role of his devoted caretaker. She assured everyone she would handle everything. She personally supervised his meals and made sure he took his medicines. She instructed the servants not to disturb him and began managing his business meetings, speaking on his behalf. People praised her unwavering loyalty, calling her a devoted wife standing by her husband through his darkest hour. At first, he was immensely grateful. He trusted her completely. Every meal she prepared tasted normal, and he swallowed every pill she gave him without a second thought. He believed she was his only pillar of support in a world that had suddenly turned dark. But slowly, his life began to shrink. He stopped attending meetings. Important documents were now signed through his wife. She told him not to stress about business. "Focus on your health," she would say softly. "I'll handle everything." He had no reason to doubt her. Still, something felt off. He noticed his weakness increasing after meals. He'd feel dizzy spells, and sometimes his heart would beat unusually fast. He mentioned it once, but she quickly dismissed it as a symptom of his illness, something the doctors had supposedly warned them about. He fell silent. Since he couldn't see, his other senses grew sharper. He started paying close attention to every sound. He learned to distinguish footsteps, memorize the creak of each door, and recognize servants by the sound of their voices. In total darkness, even the smallest changes become loud. One afternoon, he decided to sit in the garden for some fresh air. A servant guided him to a bench near the gate and left him alone. He sat there quietly, listening to the birds and the distant traffic, feeling a rare moment of peace. That's when he heard light footsteps approaching. They weren't the heavy steps of a servant or the confident click of his wife's heels. These were softer, slower. A young girl stopped near him. Her voice was nervous, but clear. She said quietly. He turned his face toward the sound. "Who's there?" he asked. There was a brief silence. Then, she spoke words that made his heart freeze. "You're not blind. It's your wife. She adds something to your food." The words hit him like a thunderclap. For a few seconds, he couldn't breathe. A surge of anger rose within him. How dare someone say such a thing about his devoted wife? It was impossible, absurd. She had been his rock. "What are you saying?" he demanded, his voice shaking. But the girl didn't answer. He heard her footsteps quickly moving away. He tried to stand, to follow her, but he stumbled, disoriented. Within moments, she was gone. He sat there in the silence, his heart pounding in his chest. Her voice echoed in his mind. "You're not blind. It's your wife." He desperately wanted to dismiss it, to forget he ever heard it. But once doubt takes root in your heart, it's nearly impossible to ignore. For the first time since losing his sight, he felt something far more terrifying than darkness. He felt uncertainty. And deep within him, a small, terrifying question began to grow. What if his perfect life was the most perfect lie of all? Thanks for watching. If you want to know what happens next, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That night, he did not sleep. The girl's words kept repeating in his mind like a whisper that refused to fade. "You're not blind. It's your wife who had something in your food." At first, he had felt angry. Now, he felt something worse: confusion, doubt, fear. He told himself it was impossible. His wife had stayed beside him when the world turned dark. She had fed him, guided him, and spoken for him in meetings. Everyone praised her loyalty. Could all of that be fake? But once a question enters the mind, it starts connecting small details. He remembered how his symptoms had begun. Before losing his sight, he had been perfectly healthy. No serious illness. No family history of blindness. It had all started slowly and strangely. Around the same time, his wife insisted on changing his diet. She had said rich food was not good for him anymore. From that day, she personally prepared his meals. He remembered something else. Every time he tried to eat outside food, she would stop him gently. "Doctor's orders," she would say sweetly. "Only home-cooked meals for now." At the time, it sounded caring. Now, it sounded controlling. The next morning, he decided to test something. At breakfast, he acted normal. His wife brought him a bowl of oatmeal and juice. Her voice was soft and loving, just like always. He thanked her and lifted the spoon to his mouth. But instead of swallowing, he quietly let the food fall into a napkin on his lap. He continued pretending to eat. After she left the room, he carefully folded the napkin and hid it inside his coat pocket. His hands were slightly shaking. He did not know if he was doing the right thing, but he had to know the truth. That afternoon, he called the only person he still trusted completely, his old driver, Kareem. Kareem had worked for him for over 15 years. He was loyal, simple, and honest. When Kareem entered the room, he sounded surprised. "Sir, you called for me?" "Yes," the millionaire said calmly. "Close the door." There was something different in his voice. Stronger, more alert. "I need your help," he said quietly, "and you must not tell anyone, not even my wife." Kareem hesitated for a second, then replied firmly, "I will never betray you." "Sir," the millionaire handed him the folded napkin. "Take this to a private laboratory, not our regular hospital. Somewhere no one knows us. Ask them to test it for any harmful substances." Kareem did not ask questions. He simply took it and left. The waiting was the hardest part. For 2 days, the millionaire continued, pretending to be weak and helpless. He let his wife guide him. He thanked her for her care. He apologized for being a burden. She responded with kindness every time. But now he was listening more carefully. He noticed how often she spoke on the phone in a low voice when she thought he was asleep. He noticed how she ended calls quickly when he entered a room. Once, he even heard her laugh in a way he had never heard before, cold and confident. On the third evening, Kareem returned. His footsteps were faster than usual. "Nervous, sir," he whispered. "The report is ready." The millionaire's heart began to pound loudly in his chest. What does it say? There was a short silence before Kareem answered. They found traces of a chemical substance mixed in the food. It is not deadly immediately, but if taken regularly, it can damage nerves, including the optic nerve. The room felt colder. So, the millionaire asked slowly, "So your blindness may not be natural?" The words hit harder than any physical pain. For a moment, he felt like the ground disappeared under his feet. His hands gripped the chair tightly. All the memories of his wife's care, her tears at the hospital, her soft voice at night, they all flashed in his mind. Were they all lies? Anger rose inside him, but he controlled it. This was not the time for emotions. This was the time for intelligence. "Listen carefully," he told Kareem. "From today, we say nothing. I will continue pretending to be blind. I will continue eating her food, but you will secretly replace it whenever possible." Kareem agreed immediately. The millionaire also made another decision. He contacted his personal lawyer using a secure line. Without explaining everything, he ordered a quiet investigation into his financial accounts and recent company transfers. Something bigger was happening. He could feel it. That night during dinner, his wife sat beside him as usual. "You seem quiet today," she said gently. "Just tired," he replied. She placed her hand over his. "Don't worry, I am here. I will always take care of you." Her voice sounded warm, loving. But for the first time, he did not feel comfort. He felt danger. As he sat there in darkness, pretending to be a broken man, something inside him had changed. He was no longer the helpless millionaire who depended on his wife for everything. He was awake now. And if this was truly a betrayal, he would uncover every detail. Because sometimes, the most dangerous person in the room is not the one who cannot see. It is the one who is silently watching without being noticed. The night his world went dark was the night he truly began to see. Arthur Vance, a self-made millionaire, a titan of industry, suddenly lost his sight. The doctors were baffled, calling it a rare, aggressive condition. His vibrant world, once filled with the shimmer of glass towers and the sharp lines of luxury cars, was reduced to an endless, suffocating black. He became a ghost in his own life, a prisoner in his sprawling mansion. His wife, Isabella, once the jewel of his life, became his eyes and hands. His business partner and oldest friend, Julian, stepped up to manage his empire. They were his pillars, his saviors, or so he thought. But in the silence of his new reality, Arthur's other senses sharpened. He started noticing things he'd been blind to before. The slight tremor in Isabella's hand as she passed him his morning tea. Her voice held a note of impatience, a sharp edge masked by sweet words of concern. He noticed the hushed, late-night phone calls between her and Julian. Whispers that would abruptly stop the moment he entered a room. He noticed the strange, metallic aftertaste of his special medication, a taste that lingered and grew stronger each day. Suspicion, cold and sharp, began to cut through the fog of his despair. He was weak, helpless, dependent. That's what they wanted him to be. That's the role he had to play. So he played it perfectly. He stumbled more often. His voice grew frailer. He let them guide him, dress him, and feed him, all while his mind was racing, connecting the dots. He was being poisoned, slowly, methodically, by the two people he trusted most in the world. They wanted his empire, and they were willing to erase him to get it. A wave of fury, hot and cleansing, washed over him. They thought he was finished, but a blind lion is still a lion. His plan began to take shape in the darkness. He used their underestimation of him as his greatest weapon. He fumbled with his new, voice-activated smart devices, accidentally recording their hushed conversations. He'd complain about a draft and ask for a blanket, giving him a reason to have his private nurse. A loyal employee from his early days subtly placed microcameras in the room. He'd confuse his medications, prompting the nurse to collect samples for analysis. Every sigh of weakness, every plea for help was a calculated move in a deadly chess game they didn't even know they were playing. He gathered his evidence piece by piece. Audio clips of Isabella and Julian discussing increasing the dosage. Financial records showing them siphoning millions from his accounts, and the lab report confirming a slow-acting poison in his system. The picture was complete, stark, and horrifying. They weren't just trying to sideline him. They were murdering him. With all the proof he needed secured with his lawyer, Arthur set the stage for his final act. He called an emergency board meeting, insisting he had a crucial announcement about the company's future. He entered the boardroom on Isabella's arm, appearing more fragile than ever. Julian stood at the head of the table, a picture of confident control. The board members looked on with pity. Then, Arthur spoke. His voice, no longer frail, but booming with its old authority, echoed through the silent room. He revealed everything. The affair, the theft, the poisoning. He played the recordings, their venomous whispers filling the space. He displayed the bank statements, the red lines of their betrayal clear for all to see. Isabella and Julian's faces turned ashen. The trap had sprung. They had tried to bury him in darkness, but they forgot one thing. In the dark, Arthur Vance had learned to see everything. He didn't just reclaim his empire that day. He rose from the ashes they had created for him, stronger and more powerful than ever before. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story of justice and revenge, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Ever feel like the world has turned its back on you? That's exactly where our story begins. Imagine being at the top of your game, a self-made millionaire with a massive empire at your fingertips. Then, in a cruel twist of fate, an accident snatches away your sight, plunging you into a world of darkness. This is the reality for our hero. Let's call him Alex. He was once a titan of industry, but now he's seen as a helpless blind man, dependent on his beautiful wife, Isabella. Everyone thought Isabella was the perfect, devoted wife, tirelessly caring for her husband. She was his eyes, his guide, his everything. But behind closed doors, a different story was unfolding. Isabella saw Alex's blindness not as a tragedy, but as an opportunity. With her lover, a cunning and ambitious executive within Alex's own company, she started to systematically dismantle his empire, piece by piece. They believed he was completely oblivious, lost in his sightless world, but they underestimated Alex. He might have lost his sight, but his other senses, his intuition, and his brilliant mind were sharper than ever. He started noticing things, a whispered phone call Isabella thought he couldn't hear, the scent of another man's cologne lingering in the room, the subtle changes in her tone when she talked about company business. He heard the glee in her voice as she signed away his assets, thinking he was just a puppet in her hands. He played along, acting more feeble, more dependent than he truly was. This wasn't weakness, it was a strategy. Alex was a chess master, and he was letting them make their moves, letting them think they were winning. He secretly used his old, loyal contacts, people who respected the man he was and still is. Through a series of coded messages and discreet meetings, he began to gather evidence. A hidden microphone here, a private investigator there. He was building a case, a fortress of truth, all while pretending to be a frail, broken man. His enemies were getting comfortable, celebrating their imminent victory, completely unaware that the blind lion was about to roar. The climax arrives at the annual shareholder meeting. Isabella and her lover stand proudly at the podium, ready to announce the final takeover of the company. They look over at Alex, sitting in the front row, a pitiful figure in their eyes. But then, Alex stands up. He calmly removes his dark glasses, and for the first time in years, his sharp, focused eyes scan the room. A collective gasp echoes through the hall. The audio system suddenly crackles to life, playing back incriminating recordings of Isabella and her lover plotting their scheme. Emails and secret documents flash across the giant screen behind them. Their faces turn from triumph to terror. In that single powerful moment, Alex reclaims everything. Not just his company, but his dignity, his power, and his life. He exposes the betrayal and sends the traitors crashing down from the pedestals they built on lies. This story is a powerful reminder that true strength isn't about what you can see, but about the resilience of the human spirit. It's about playing the long game and knowing that even in your darkest moments, you can be gathering the strength for your greatest comeback. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories.